Okay, chapter 10. Purity speaks boldly, preparing your tongue for dates, meaning talking, not anything dirty. Celebration Story by Elizabeth Raymer. On Standing Boldly. I'm a senior in high school. I've never been kissed, and I'm not ashamed of it. I used to be, though. When I started high school, I was guy crazy. There was one boy in particular that I liked a lot. I tried everything that I could think of to get him to like me. I confided all my feelings in him, partly because I didn't know what to do with them, and partly in hopes that it would make him like me, poor guy. But now I'm free to be guy free. I could never have reached this point if I wouldn't have read this book. So here's a little entry by the author of what she writes. Um, it pays to do. Hold on, it's so bright in my face. It pays to do things the hard way, which is the case more often than not when you seek the Lord's will. My relationship with Bob Gresh is more unique and special than it ever has been. There are not any I love yous. There are no physical displays of affection, and yet our relationship runs more deeply now than when those things were present. It's not easy. There are days I don't share with him, and yet I'm so thankful that the Lord has given us the wisdom to patiently wait for his timing. I argued with Bob tonight. No, we didn't fight, but we enthusiastically debated our views. I never even knew I had it in me. Debate is somehow stimulating. In fact, if we hadn't been disagreeing, I'd have been laughing. I'd laid down my journal, having read the slow progression of several months of a relationship I was treasuring. Our hearts, which for a few weeks were so easily read and unguarded in our passion, had reverted to an unspoken determination by our heads to progress slowly, painfully slowly. However, there was a sense of an upcoming reward to the pain of waiting. I wasn't afraid in this relationship because I was not entirely vulnerable. I felt no risk of becoming overly physical because that was in no way part of our relationship. And best of all, there were still some incredible moments ahead of us. I did not realize, but I was about to experience one of them. I glanced at the clock and realized it was time to meet Bob at my dorm lobby. He met me, escorted me to his car, and we got in. As we drove away, the conversation picked up where we'd left off the last time we'd been together. We had a pace to our conversation. It was aggressive and determined. We had no awkward pauses as we wondered what to say next. We were on a mission to chisel into each other's mind and were using words as our primary tool. Suddenly he stopped the car. I noticed the soft January snowflakes for the first time and felt the hush of fresh snowfall embrace our car. It was as if time had suddenly stopped. He reached over and tenderly kissed the tip of my nose, barely brushing my lips as he pulled away. This is as far as I want any physical contact to go between us, he whispered, and then drove on. We were silent for the first time in months. I pondered the unspoken words he had not used to charge me with a great task. I heard him. He was asking me to keep talking. I did. The tongue is a powerful tool. James compares it to the rudder of a great ship. With just this little instrument, you can set your course for a direction toward something great, or toward the perils of an iceberg. Though somewhat of an introvert, I found that keeping my lips loose kept my relationship headed toward greatness. I've seen a trend as I counsel young women in their relationships. Author Robert Wolgemuth spoke of it in his book, She Calls Me Daddy. He said that young women who have learned the art of conversation are less likely to be caught in compromising physical situations. Why? First, assuming that boys will nearly always be the aggressor. You'll know how to openly express your commitments to purity and fears of the consequences of premarital intimate contact. Second, young lovebirds usually choose between talk and the back seat. They don't do both simultaneously. If you truly desire to live a lifestyle of purity, you'll learn the secret of speaking boldly. Load your lap with tennis balls. Wolgemuth was taking his young daughter to a friend's home for dinner one evening when a conversation skill he had heard James Dobson mention came in handy. Similar to the predate jitters, the girls found themselves nervous about what to say and how to act. He told them to fill their laps with tennis balls before they sat down for dinner, and be ready to throw them at their new friends. I am sure the girls' eyes were as wide as tennis balls when their dad announced they'd be throwing balls at the dinner table, but he went on to explain. The tennis balls were really questions, and when their new friends answered, it would be like another tennis ball coming back to them that needed to be caught. Then the girls could decide if it was a good ball that needed to be thrown back or if it was a bad one, in which case they would pick up a new question from their lap and toss it out. It's a great concept. Do you have a lot full of tennis balls for your dates? What Hollywood Won't Tell You About Sex, Love, and Dating, a book written by Greg Johnson and Susie Schellenberger, has a great chapter entitled Dolt or Volt. Can you carry on a conversation? The main difference between a dolt and a volt is that a dolt waits to be asked questions and a bolt asks them. The chapter is full of good questions to ask, including what are your favorite sports to play? What kind of car would you like to have? Why? Who are your heroes? Why? What are your top 3 memories of your grandparents? There are more, so grab a copy of the book and use them. Another great way to get questions is to go back to your dream list that you should have written in Chapter 7. This is your chance to find out if he is worth the ink on that list. So, what do you want to be when you grow up? Look for that compatibility in goals and dreams. What's your mom like? A man is often looking for a wife who is similar to her. How involved are you in church? A good, non-threatening look at his commitment to the Lord. Tell me about your relationship with God. Better if you think he's a good chance of being great for God. Watch the foul lines. I'm using this illustration of tennis balls or conversation balls as a great way to encourage you to speak boldly. But any great ball game has boundaries. If the ball moves outside of the boundaries, you foul, or you lose control of the ball. You need to watch the foul lines in your communication as well. By now, you can tell that I was a little old-fashioned in my dating because I was confident that some old-fashioned dating was not only safe for the heart and body, but it also drives a guy's heart right into a girl's hands. So in honor of our last chapter, you need to set some guidelines about what you will and will not discuss. For me, it was rather simple. I had determined 2 foul lines and 1 technical. Foul line 1, I will not discuss marriage to him until he romantically and lovingly makes the commitment to ask me to marry him. You girls, you Christian crazy girls, always want to get married like this. Anyways, I wanted the fairy tale, and that included a bended knee, so I was determined not to spoil it by stealing the moment too early in any relationship. My husband and I did talk about marriage before we were engaged, but in general sense, and after we'd been dating for a good year and a half. We discussed things like how many children we each dreamed of having one day, or what kind of home we hoped to own. They were all very general discussions, and the focus was on his dreams or my dreams, but never our dreams. Foul line 2. I will not discuss sex, physical contact, or my physical desires with him. A few months ago, I took a college-bound friend of mine to St. Louis for the day. She confided that she and her boyfriend struggled physically, so they talked about it in detail. How her body felt, how his responded, what she desired, what he dreamed of. As soon as I got home, I grabbed one of my hip friends, I think she means to say cool, Donna, and said, "Did you and your husband ever talk about your desires when you were dating?" "No way," she answered. That would have made it far too difficult not to fulfill them, and in fact would have been way sexier than actually fulfilling them. Please, oh please, remember the power of your tongue. The brain is the greatest of all sexual organs. When guys are visually stimulated and when you and I are emotionally stimulated, specific chemicals are released within the brain to cause us to desire sexual activity. The one thing that has the potential to stimulate both male and female is conversation. So determine not to talk about your desires, as it will make it very difficult to control them. This is also confirmed biblically in the Song of Solomon, the Bible's great love story. The 2 lovers used passionate, loving words to awaken desires. Talk is intimate. If you are convinced that the relationship you are in is the godly dream that you have written about in your list, and you have determined that you are ready to be married, pursue this person with lots of talk. Just take care of what you talk about. Avoiding a technical offense. I will communicate a desire to live a lifestyle of purity. If you are caught traveling in basketball, you lose control of the ball. If you have a handball in soccer, you lose the ball. Technical offenses cause you to lose control of the game, and you have to work extra hard to regain your offensive position. You end up playing defense. I had determined that I was not going to commit the technical of failing to communicate my desire to live a lifestyle of purity. I was going to stay on the offense. Mostly this is communicated non-verbally, in the way that you dress, where you will go on a date, and the simple body cues you offer. But there may be occasions when it seems to be communicated more occasions when it needs to be communicated more blatantly. I heard every word. Bob Gresh did not speak to me that night when he said, "This is as far as I want our relationship to go." He was saying, "This is hard for me. I physically yearn for more." but I need you to hold me accountable to my desire to live a lifestyle of purity. Previously, I had made my own desire for purity known by playfully saying things like, "We kiss too much. I've got brains too, you know." And "Do you want to get to know me or my lips?" That put the end to our foolish beginning and got us headed toward something great. Confessing your wish to be pure does two things. One, it creates accountability to each other to live up to it. And two, it sets the standard. Notice that in my confrontation to Bob, there was little detail as far as the desires that were awakened, and we were of marrying age. Commit to um, Commit to communicate this nonverbally, as you are governed by your value, and seek to speak boldly. But if the need or occasion arises, be prepared to draw the line quickly and with little detail about your physical desires. Controlling the tongue is not easy. Since the tongue is so powerful, I'd like you to review by signing the contract for your lips on page 101. Keep reading because the next secret proved to be the most crucial one, assure me a satisfying marriage. So the contract on page 101. See, it got really dark. Okay. Loose lip contract. I will keep my lips loose on a date. I commit to do the following. I will begin each dating relationship with a tennis ball load of questions. Once I have found someone who meets my dream list, I will date him using these guidelines for conversation. I will not discuss marriage to him until he romantically and lovingly makes a commitment to ask me to marry him. I will not discuss sex, physical contact, or my desires with him. I will communicate a desire to live a lifestyle of purity, and then your signature and date. Okay. It's time to commit. Your lips are very powerful. You need to make a commitment with the loose lip contract, but only if you intend to stick to it. If you feel that you have failed in one of these 4 areas, take your journal out and write about it. Then commit right here and now by signing the loose lip contract. A little quote from Elizabeth Elliot's Passion and Purity. Let's be candid with ourselves before God. Call a spade, or even a muddy shovel. If your passions are aroused, say so, to yourself and to God, not to the object of your passion. Then turn the reins over to God. Bring your will to Him. Will to obey Him. Ask for His help. He will not do the obeying for you, but He will help you. Don't ask me how. He knows how. You'll see. Alright, and so, okay, things have gone too far. He is reaching for the forbidden fruit. Or maybe you are. It's time to say freeze. What words will you use to do it? Below I have given you 2 of the best comeback lines I have heard in my retreats. You determine what other 8 you will add to your list. Isn't it cool that God is watching us every minute? That's 1. And hey, have I told you that my father dusts for my fingerprints when I get home from a date? That would be 2. Personally haven't done this yet. Maybe I'll come back to this video and put it in the description if I find some really cool ones. But yeah, work on that yourself. Alright? Bye!